really is nothing to do with Boris Johnson's conduct. It's nothing to do with what the Sunday Times reported. It is simply a story about Brexit, except it isn't, except it is. How do you feel about Boris Johnson? Well, I voted Leave, so I'm going to have to defend him, or at least reluctantly acknowledge that he's my man. And I voted Remain, so I'm going to condemn him. I don't know when this happened. I really don't. I'm 90. I remember when Brendan Cox, I've told you this a million times, because again, it was one of those real window opening moments for me. When Jo Cox's widower was found to have behaved inappropriately in previous jobs, my Twitter blew up the night before I came on air. I think it was a Sunday night. And it was before I'd enacted my incredibly sophisticated blocking programs. It was back in the days when you know, you didn't have to block on an industrial scale, and it was just weird. It took me a while to get my head around it. It was Brendan Cox turns out to, and I was, but what does that have to do with anything? What do you? And I suddenly realised it was all about Donald Trump. So this perception that somehow the widower of a man. I beg your pardon, the widower of a woman murdered by a white supremacist terrorist was on one, quote, side of the argument, and so was I. And Donald Trump and presumably presumably the white supremacist terrorist actually, was on the other side of the argument. And because you had been reduced to defending Donald Trump's moral depravity after the tape emerged of him confessing to a lifelong enthusiasm for sexually assaulting women, because you'd been reduced to defending that or calling it locker room talk, you somehow presumed that when Jo Cox's widower was found to have behaved unacceptably in a previous job, I would go on air and defend him. And I stared at these tweets, and I remember thinking, how have they done that to you? How have you ended up not only acknowledging your own moral corruption, but desperately reaching for the idea that everybody else is as morally corrupt as you are? Because I'll tell you something for nothing. Nobody could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and keep my vote. Nobody.